This woman tried to evict me from my own land, the cabin I built with my own hands. She said I was trespassing, but I had something she didn't expect. The deed and the badge. What happened next? Let's just say, Karen picked the wrong person to mess with. There's something about peace and quiet that you don't realize you've been missing until the silence wraps around you like a warm blanket. That's what my cabin had always been for me. A place tucked deep into the woods, away from deadlines, chaos, and people who knock just to complain. But last weekend, the knock on my cabin door wasn't just annoying, it was the start of a storm. I had just returned after 3 months of military deployment overseas. The second I stepped back onto the dirt road that led to my land, I felt grounded again. That cabin was mine. Bought fair and square, with a deed, with county approval, and even paid off completely. It was built by my grandfather and rebuilt by me. Every nail, every beam. It was mine in blood and brick. So when a shrill voice from behind snapped, "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing here?" I honestly thought I was being mistaken for a stranger. I turned around, and there she was. Blonde bob, clipboard in hand, HOA badge dangling like she was part of some law enforcement squad. "Karen, you're trespassing," she said matter-of-factly. "This property belongs to the Willow Creek HOA now." I blinked, confused. "I'm sorry. This is my cabin." "No, sir," she said, shaking her head. "We had it condemned 3 months ago. It's being transferred to the HOA for community use. I suggest you leave before I have you removed." That's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This woman was serious. I didn't come back from a deployment, risking my life, just to be kicked off land I owned. But I also didn't want to escalate things without understanding what was really going on. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my property documents stored in the cloud. The deed, my name, the county stamp, all there. She didn't even glance at it. "We don't accept digital documents," she said with a smug smirk. "The HOA only accepts official communication through our board." "That's fine," I said. "I'll bring you a printed copy. But until then, I'm not leaving." Karen's tone sharpened. "Then you'll be forcibly removed. I'm calling law enforcement." She stormed off down the dirt path, and for a moment, I just stood there in disbelief. I had heard stories about overreaching HOAs, but never thought I'd be the headline of one. 10 minutes later, a county sheriff's SUV rolled up. The deputy who stepped out was Officer Daniels, older guy, clean-cut, stern face, but fair. "Sir, we received a complaint of trespassing." I explained everything, even showed him the documents again. Karen stood behind him with her arms crossed, tapping her foot like a preschool teacher waiting for the class to shut up. Officer Daniels took his time reading through my paperwork. Then he looked at Karen and asked, "Did you file anything with the county?" Karen blinked. "The HOA board filed a property violation report. That means—" "That's not a legal eviction," Daniels interrupted. "This isn't an HOA-owned lot. It's privately owned. Everything here," he gestured to the paperwork, "checks out." Her face turned a shade redder than her sweater. She sputtered, "Then why was he gone for so long? Abandonment laws?" Daniels raised his hand. "Not how abandonment works in this county. You're overstepping." Karen wasn't used to being shut down, and it showed. She took a deep breath and tried a different angle. "This structure is dangerous. I had it inspected." "With whose authority?" I asked. "With mine. I'm the HOA compliance chair. We determined it was unfit for occupancy." Officer Daniels, now visibly annoyed, pulled out a small notepad. "Karen, you know HOA authority stops at community maintenance and cosmetic violations. You can't evict someone from private property, and you can't file county paperwork without the owner's consent." She stammered again. "But the bylaws do not supersede property law," Daniels said flatly. She tried to pivot. "Then I'll escalate this. Our HOA has lawyers." "Good," I said. "So do I. And mine served in the army with me. Would love to dust off the paperwork." Karen fell silent for a moment. The power dynamic had completely shifted, and she knew it. What made it worse for her, I think, was that I wasn't yelling or angry. I was calm, and that kind of calm drives people like her insane. Officer Daniels asked if I'd like to file a report on the HOA harassment. I declined. Not yet. I wanted to give her a chance to walk away with dignity, but Karen wasn't going to back off quietly. 2 days passed. I spent those days cleaning out the cabin, checking the plumbing, clearing leaves off the roof, enjoying every minute of the peace I'd missed. But on the third morning I found a violation notice nailed to my door, literally nailed, like some medieval HOA decree. It accused me of reoccupying condemned property and gave me 24 hours to vacate. This time I didn't wait. I called the sheriff's office directly. Daniels came back, this time with a second deputy and a legal compliance officer from the county. Together, we reviewed everything again. Not just my deed, but a timeline of ownership, my military leave orders, and even property tax receipts. The county officer, Ms. Herrera, looked at Karen's notice and laughed under her breath. "This is completely invalid. This isn't even county letterhead. And you nailed it to his cabin?" Karen stood nearby, lips pressed tight. "I was protecting community standards." "You vandalized private property," Herrera said bluntly. "That's not protection. That's harassment." Daniels turned to me. "We can proceed with charges if you like. Tampering with private dwellings, issuing fraudulent notices." I looked Karen in the eyes. "You wanted me gone, but I'm not going anywhere. This cabin's been in my family for 40 years, and it's not for sale, not for lease, and definitely not for Karen." The fallout from that day was immediate. The county opened an investigation into Willow Creek HOA's recent actions. Turns out, Karen had filed multiple fake complaints, not just about my cabin, but against other neighbors too. An elderly veteran's flagpole, a single mum's chicken coop, all for violations that didn't exist. Residents started speaking up. Turns out, no one had actually elected Karen. She had assumed the role when the last chair moved out. Her authority was a bluff, propped up by her voice and clipboard. I stayed quiet through the chaos. Let her bury herself. A week later, I was sitting on the porch drinking coffee when a different car pulled up. No sirens this time. It was Daniels again, with paperwork. "She's stepping down," he said, handing me a copy. "The board voted to dissolve her chair position." I nodded. "Peace finally, huh?" He smiled. "For now. But if anything else comes up..." I shook his hand. "You'll be the first I call." Now, when I sit outside my cabin, the wind feels different. The air isn't just quiet, it's earned. I see the trees and the fence I fixed, and the cabin that stood firm even when a false authority tried to take it from me. Karen hasn't been seen much around here lately. Word is, she's moved into a different community, one that probably doesn't know her yet. But my neighbors do, and now they talk more, share coffee, tell stories. We aren't afraid of clipboards or empty threats. We've seen what happens when one person stands up with truth, calmly, backed by law. I didn't need to raise my voice to prove this was mine. All I needed was the truth, and the deed to back it up. If you enjoyed watching justice unfold and standing up to Karen chaos, give this video a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share it with someone who loves seeing truth win. More insane HOA stories are on the way. You won't want to miss what happens next.